All right. So basically, what I'm doing is just uploading one of these journal readings with these last 3 episodes of Metro Exodus when we go through the Dead City. So this episode, I'm going to read The New World and Creatures. This will definitely not be as long as that last one, which is why I did Crew by itself because I knew it was going to be so long. Anyways, bandits. With no state and its laws, with no pockets of civilization which the new civic society could crystallize around, with no hope of ever going back to normal life, should one be surprised with the rise of anarchy and its consequences? Bandits constructing their rudimentary societies around the basest aspects of the human nature. Even in the tunnels of Moscow Metro, where every meter was divided between, or has been divided between the quasi-states, attempting to uphold their semblance of order on their turf, the gangs flourish. What could one expect from the world of surface where there is simply nobody and nothing to stand up to them? On the banks of Volga, there seem to be a great many of bandit gangs. They have somehow agreed on the division of spheres of influence and are more or less happily coexisting, robbing the few remaining or newly founded in the less polluted regions, peaceful survivor settlements, and selling their denizens as slaves on the markets of the South. Fanatics. The worship of a giant mutant catfish, intense hatred towards the technology and outsiders, coupled with intense suppression of all individuality and independent thought within the community. What else could one reasonably expect from a mix of primitive mysticism with classic religion, seeped with good old founders' cult of personality? I must give the fanatics their dues, though. By banding together, they managed to survive in this wild world, settling a bridge and turning it into a veritable fortress, which we had no choice but to take seriously. Their best fighters, the lightning fighters, can fight back against the electric anomalies, and even gangs of bandits compensating for their lack in training by strong motivation rooted in their fanaticism. Exhibition. My home station, now a part of our Vidikin Commonwealth, together with Alexeyevskaya and Rizskaya. Living there has been an uneven ride, but I still have fond memories of the time, even though Anna, my wife, would disagree. She positively hated it there, having traded the position of the Order's best sniper for everyday chores of a regular mushroom farmer. Hansa. The most powerful faction of the Metro, the Commonwealth of the stations of the Ring Line. The soldiers in Hansa enjoy the best pay and equipment, and thus are highly motivated to train and perform their duties exceptionally well, making up in proficiency and skill for what they may lack in numbers. The only force to be objectively better than Hansaic troops in terms of professionalism and training is the Spartan Order, which yours truly is honored to be a member of. As far as I was able to surmise, from the Colonel's reluctant confession, Hansa is the vehicle of the Invisible Watchers, the real government of Moscow, controlling all the factions from the shadows. They clearly have too much power to just live and let live, and thus engaged in some shady business, including the SHIELD project designed to keep Moscow under an impenetrable blanket of radio jamming to prevent further nuclear strikes against the capital. The project itself would be a benevolent initiative, even if quite misguided, had it not been connected with mass murder of people coming into or trying to leave Moscow, as well as anyone and everyone learning anything about it. Anna and I were captured by their patrol after we saw the Aurora entering the city perimeter, and just for that terrible crime I was put to the gun. Anna's agony at the moment is something I will not forgive them, for as long as I live. Yeah, fuck Hansa. The cannibals. The cannibals residing in the Yamantau complex seem suffer from heavy cerebral damage caused by an infectious disease they contracted through their diet, so their words are barely legible. Still, they are exceptionally determined in pursuing their prey, and complete disregard of their own safety makes them a dangerous enemy indeed. The tribals. The local population of the Caspian Desert, ruthlessly subjugated by a tyrannical criminal empire. The tribals are mostly young and serve their masters willingly, remaining servile and dedicated to them no matter what terrible oppression they are repaid for their service with. All tribals are devout followers of the cult of the Holy Flame instituted by the Baron, their adherence to the tenets of faith being brutally enforced by their masters to keep them under control. Varag Oil. The criminal empire rule in the portion of Caspian Desert we visited was controlled by a supreme ruler called the Baron, using the largest oil rig in the area as his seat of power. Apparently, the Baron's climb to power started within Svarag Oil, an oil drilling company that had been controlling all of the oil extraction in the area when the war broke out. Children of the Forest. These dwellers of a river valley we had hoped to settle in are a weird bunch. They look like overgrown kids too immersed in a game or something. Looks like the war caught them in the local camp, but they managed to survive despite the attacks from bandits and mutants. It seems that the valley dwellers are divided into two factions. They call each other the Pirates and the Pioneers. Both camps similarly respect the word of some teacher, but seem to differ in its interpretation. The Pirates are more aggressive, while the Pioneers more isolationist. Thanks to this schism between the locals, Alyosha was able to escape from their camp. So there we go, that's the New World readings. Let's go ahead and read up on the creatures. Watchmen. These annoying beasts hunt in packs, and if you see one, you better dispose of it immediately. Otherwise, it might howl and call in the rest of the pack, and it will howl as soon as it sees you. Demons. These giant flying mutants comfortably occupying the position of the apex predator in the food chain of the poisoned wasteland stretching above the tunnels of Moscow Metro have, thanks to their enormous physical strength, speed, and aggressive demeanor, successfully settled a huge territory. That is hardly surprising, as there are very few animals capable of ever facing a demon. Those that could fight it one-on-one and win are even fewer and further between, while a demon can easily fly away from any of them. Luckily, because of these strengths, the demons, like the large birds of prey of the past, prefer to live and hunt alone or in very small groups, and thus do not present an immense threat to a careful traveler. Jeez. Humanimals. Like the other mutants created by radioactive fallout, these nightmarish creatures feel right at home in the inhospitable post-war world. Despite clearly being descended from humans, these creatures are not really that smart, resembling apes in their behavior. They live in packs, don't use any tools, and defend themselves mostly by throwing stones from a distance. One such mutant is not much of a threat, but a fight against a pack of these is hard to survive. Our first encounter with these creatures happened on the banks of Volga. In the open, they seemed harmless and even pathetic. Their ugly appearance accentuated by the sluggishness of their movements. Yet inside the abandoned loading terminal building, they proved to be more than just troublesome to me. It became apparent that besides throwing stones, they were also able of ambushing their prey by hiding in shallow water. The Tzar Fish. Generally, a giant mutant catfish terrorizing the fishermen would seem to be a dubious object of worship at best. But Silantius still managed to indoctrinate the locals he'd brainwashed into believing the monster was sent to the earth with a divine mission. The female shrimp. A mysterious aquatic life form, seemingly crustacean, of course. You can't be sure these days, as far as I know, nobody ever thought of properly researching them and finding their proper place in classification. What we know is that they have strong carapaces, are aggressive predators, and as such inherently dangerous. The females of the species tend to attack in packs, spitting corrosive mucus from the distance, or when they think they can easily finish their prey, going in for a kill with their disgusting leech-like mouths. The male shrimp. These are the bigger ones. A mysterious aquatic life form, seemingly crustacean, of course. You can't be sure these days. As far as I know, nobody ever thought of properly researching them and finding their proper place in classification. What we know is that they have extremely strong carapaces, are aggressive predators, and as such inherently dangerous. The males of the species tend to live solitary lives and are extremely territorial. Once they see anything they deem a threat, they immediately attack using their massive forelimbs as clubs and shields at once. Dogs. The common dogs seem to be no match for the messed up world of the surface, but they manage to survive despite being surrounded by mutants and human enemies. So they definitely are a threat to be considered, especially when you consider their keen senses and ability to easily alert their masters to your presence. The male spider bug. These dwellers of abandoned tunnels and other dark places, of which there's no shortage in our world, are extremely aggressive, agile, strong, and well-armored, making them tough opponents. When you consider their tendency to live and hunt in packs, they become veritable nightmare fuel. Their only real weakness, although a tremendous one, is light. Even a mere flashlight can make them thrash about in panic and die in seconds. The female spider bug. These dwellers of abandoned tunnels and other dark places, of which there's no shortage in our world, are extremely aggressive, agile, strong, and armored, making them tough opponents when you consider their tendency to... live and hunt in packs. They become veritable nightmare fuel. The females of the species tend to be armored even better than their male counterparts, but prefer to stay at a certain distance from their prey, at least until they disable it with wads of web they shoot with amazing power and accuracy. Their only real weakness, although a tremendous one, is light. Panic and die in seconds. The master of the forest. The undisputed ruler of the forests in the river valley we had hopes of settling in, this enormous mutated bear is a lethal threat to anyone it sees. Its thick bones and tough muscles are extremely resistant to firearms of any kind, save for the heaviest ones, but its thick fur seems rather susceptible to incendiary weapons. The wolves. These gracious animals seemed a welcome change from the incredibly ugly mutants I got used to in Moscow, and on the way to the valley, right until they tried taking a bite out of me. Incredibly dangerous in a pack, a wolf is by no means a threat to you, or a threat you can dismiss even when it's alone. The lurkers. While lurkers are far from being the strongest or meanest mutants around either in the metro or on the surface, they are still a danger to be considered, especially for a lonely wanderer. They are a colonial burrowing species. As such, they protect themselves from the larger predators by constructing lots of interconnected burrows in close proximity to each other and hiding in them if sufficiently threatened, while keeping the surroundings under constant observation in search for danger or potential prey. When in a lurker-infested area, you can never guess which burrow a bloodthirsty creature might appear from, though you can bet it will most often be the one you're not looking at. Dun dun dun. So that's the New World and the creatures. So next journal reading episode we'll do the equipment and weapons. And that'll be it for the journal reading. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing. My name is Brian, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.